Hello, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back to yet another bracket round semifinals as we move into the closing portions here of this bracket here. Getting ever so closer to finding out who our champion will be, and we're down to our top four. Vesa, oooje, Allen, and Death's Advocate here. Allen putting in great performance last episode here, earning his spot against DA Tweak. I know you weren't here for much of that matchup here, but if you wanted to make some remarks regarding your dark horse, 'cause I know before we opened up this this segment here, you mentioned that you were unhappy with Jay.
Yeah, players can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'm literally shaking my head right now. Uh, quick rest in peace to JJJ and to me as well. We had a great run, making it through the Raka Rumble and making it to the first round of the Champions of Champions playoffs, and to go out in that fashion, I'm just speechless. And I'm sorry. It's a touchy subject for me still, and for Jay. We need time to mourn.
Right.
So please don't ask me more about that.
Okay. All right. Well,
I can't speak. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Well, how about this? You might be feeling down, you might be feeling out of it here, but I know what'll get you right back in your good vibes here. We're going back to the
What?
Vesa hype train as we are now looking at Vesa versus oooje here for the first semi-final matchup here. And I know that you should be, at least I hope you're still invested on the vesaven hype train that's been making the
Oh
rounds
yeah.
here. As he's taken quite the resurgence from being someone who struggled in the early season to now having a very dominant stomping through nearly all of the players he's come up against here, with the exception possibly being here oooje in the semifinals here. We're not sure what's going to happen, obviously, here, but the last time they went up against each other here, I think Vesa, again, was still on the knight strategy, so oooje did win in a very dominant performance here. But again, first time that these two in their newer forms are meeting, and it should be a great matchup to rekindle your spirits.
Yeah. I've been gobbling up all the vesaven stocks once they hit the market. So, if you're watching this video and you want to buy vesaven stock, I am sorry. It is too late. The train has left the station. You are no longer welcome on the vesaven hype train. I am sorry. Better luck next time. And now let's get into the the pregame matchup. I'm liking this matchup with vesaven. Looking at oooje's deck, he's got Freezing Pillar. He's got, the Temple of the Five Gods. I don't think he's going to get a lot of value with the Freezing Pillar. Outside of, the rat hobbles, vesaven doesn't really have a lot of, cards and units that, can clump up together to, get a lot of Lightning Blade and Temple of the Five Gods value, as much as oooje might want it to be. And also, we know how, crucial oooje's deck is with globals, and how, he needs those global buffs to be able to, make his deck as powerful as it is. And vesaven has, great answers for that. He has, Witch Bolts, he has Blue Fire Bolts, he has Kraken, as a last resort. He has, some scope range shenanigans he can do with. He has Mordok that he can spawn a unit and take that unit that he spawned and take out those blacksmiths, fat bards, armories. And I think if he's able to do that, I think he can, beat oooje and push forward. Now, will oooje allow him to do that? Will vesaven have the mindset to do that? Will vesaven, have the ability to think like that and to know, okay, if I take out his globals, looking at my units, the only unit I'm scared about is potentially Sea Witch and Mordok. Outside of that, all of his units have probably 2 attack or less. So hopefully vesaven picks up on that. Hopefully vesaven, targets that. We saw that he was able to, target and figure out Banana's weakness with the Dido deck. Now the question is, will he be able to think like that when it comes up to an opponent like oooje?
Well, we'll have to see.
But only
We'll have to
we
see.
will have to see.
Only time will tell as we now move into our first matchup here, folks. First semifinal match, Vesa versus oooje. Match coming at you right now. Welcome back, folks. Match number 1 of the semifinals here in our playoffs. We're going to see oooje take on Vesa. Tweaking, Vase has come a long way since the Raka Rumble here. Not the first time we're seeing him in our postseason, but I mean, first time for oooje and already in the semifinals, and we're already starting off strong. Double Rat Hovel in hand. It's gonna be one of those days. Oh,
Yeah, thank
three.
thank God vesaven has his own rat hovel because things are about to get hot and heavy right now because we have two Hasa City guards, we have two rat hovels, and we have a global buff. Oh my God.
Oh, this is gonna be fantastic. Look at us go.
Oh my God. Oh, and a Temple of the Five Gods. This is going to get extremely
We
interesting.
said, folks, it's just one of those days where we're going to see a lot of rats come out. Okay, maybe not so much for oooje there. Blue Fire hitting one of those hovels, which is going to be good. At least Vase going to have the numbers game on him. Oooje, unfortunately,
Hmm.
might have some better quality of rats here with now a second bard coming into the hand. But we'll see. We'll see if Vesa can maybe turn things around here. We know that Vesa actually doesn't really run Blacksmith in his deck. Opts for more just the Armory as his global package. So we'll see if that comes back to bite him in this matchup where oooje has a lot more in terms of buffing here. I mean, a Temple, two bards already. It's gonna be a tough one for sure. Oh, okay. All right.
And as you say that, here comes the blacksmith.
I guess there's a sideboard change. I guess it's just that type of day here. So Blacksmith coming out on the board to prove me wrong here. Gonna do a lot of trading amongst the board here, taking out two guards plus a rat, kind of evening things out here. Fearing back as well for some draw, it looks like. And yeah, this I think the Blacksmith definitely is gonna help Vesa here. I probably sideboarding that in because he realizes his opponent isn't on Warlock for that mash burn, so he knows that he has to really get close in order to actually kill off the blacksmith. So probably why he threw that in there. We'll see if that pays dividends as oooje is now considering Temple, which I think he does need some kind of buff here to start evening out with Vase's rats, so he's making better trades.
Right. And I wonder how Vesaven's going to go about dealing with the Temple of the Five Gods because he knows that Uja's, main out is, Mystic Rats. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see how he deals with that. If he decides to, if he has multiple burn to take out the temple or kind of, just try to play around the temple as hard as that is.
Yeah, especially in a strategy where you're so focused on, bringing things up to his face here, trying to rush multiple targets at once here. Chain does not favor Vesa here whatsoever, but we'll see if he can make it work. I mean, this has been sort of a slower game for oooje than we've seen in the past here. I mean, usually we see a lot more buffs out, a lot more rats here, but Vesa doing a good job sniping off the early hovel to kind of control the numbers a little bit. We'll see though if again that's going to backfire because I assume oooje might go for a bard play at some point here. Maybe not two because of the upkeep, but definitely I imagine one coming out in the next turn. I don't know if you're feeling the same way about that.
Yeah, I think he's just scared of the potential Dragon's Fire, but we only see three cards in his hand. So I mean, we're gonna have to eventually get one of these fat bards out to do something here. We're probably gonna play one. It'll be interesting to see if we play two to take out uh that fucking con artist, which we do. We don't want to give Vesaven that upkeep. I mean that extra gold, extra two gold for next turn.
Plus, getting in for a little chain damage on the rat hovel early is not too bad either here. Especially with the way that everything is positioned here, he's got to be cautious of chain and how that is going to affect the board. Or okay, Dragon's Fire. Yep, he could just Dragon's Fire the board.
Which is
Uh,
fine. His fat bards stay alive, but they lose to any sort of direct damage. But which is good because now Vesaven has to make a choice. Does he take out the fat bards? Does he take out the rat hovel, or does he weaken the Temple of the Five Gods? Uh, you know, both have their benefits and both have their disadvantages. So
mhm.
I mean,
Unfortunately,
it's
Rat King coming out now with no Mystic to make a huge impact. That's a huge loss for oooje at this point.
right. I mean, one Mystic Journey and the game is essentially in the favor of oooje. Now, one more Dragon's Fire here, and oooje can be in some deep waters here.
Oh yeah, losing both the bards. Oh
Oh my
my
God.
god.
Oh God. Uh-oh.
Oh my. god. Ooj, you gotta focus on the game, buddy. You don't got time to type out. Okay, or he can do that. But yeah, that is an extremely punishing Dragon's Fire at this point in the game here. Losing two globals to lessen an impact of a Mystic Journey, which we're not even going to play. We have to play the Rat King, and unfortunately
Right.
missing one of those rats in the back there. You could tell that, Ooj is in
The
full panic
Atarius.
mode.
Oh my god. And probably one of the worst for, these faction colors.
Yeah, because you don't have the spell power to really make that Magic Eater more impactful. Oh, this is just not good. And I mean, the triple hovel that Vesa has producing rats is so much stronger than Ooge's singular hovel. It's going to be very, very interesting to see if Ooge can manage to somehow pull out this game. He does have a damage lead, but not by much. That's probably
But
the
we haven't
only.
seen any of the Savens, Mordocs,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Serpent Witches, Minotaurs.
That's right.
As
Oh,
soon as he starts throwing those things down, it's gonna be problematic. We see a Southport captain. Still, we haven't seen any of these big boys from either players. We've seen Rat Kings, we've seen Southports, Rusty Hooks.
it's not the
Still
big
not
boy.
still not gonna be enough. I mean, he might be able to do something.
He can kill off a rat here. I don't think he's got enough to kill the captain. Yeah, he's gonna have to probably use it
Well,
defensively to pull in a rat. Oh, and the Magic Eater position to try and block off to protect the hovel, one of his big assets left in this matchup.
still not enough because he can take out the Maddie and the Mage Eater with two of the rats.
And
Oh,
there's
and
the
there's the
Kraken.
Kraken, and he's gonna take out this. He's gonna take it out. Yeah, I think
Oh
Ooze
my
sees the
god.
writing on the wall here.
Yeah, for this
Um,
one anyway. This is all downhill. Oh my
I'm not
god.
sure what an Ooze deck can, deal with any of this now that the Temple of the Five Gods has been destroyed. I mean, that was kind of his saving grace and being able to, try to stop. I mean, a shaman. Oh my God.
It's something.
And another shaman
I think that can kill the Kraken. Yeah.
into a lumberjack. Oh my God.
Man, talk about cycling here. Are we going 3 cards deep to pull out a Dragon Knight? Yeah, that's something. Oh, man, not even gonna kill off the Kraken. We're just so focused on defense here that we're preserving. And okay, there's the surrender. Uch seeing the writing on the wall does not want to deal with it. And who could blame him? Not the position
Right.
Uji's deck is familiar with being in. So, an incredible start here to game one. I think Uji's third loss throughout the entirety of season two. Incredible way for Vesa to, come out of the gates really hitting hard.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Vesaven decided to do in his sideboard, but whatever he decided to change up, it worked to perfection that game. I mean, we saw all three rat hovels, we saw
Hmm.
global burn, we saw, blacksmith. We didn't see any, high cost cards outside of the Kraken. So I'm excited to see what happens when both players finally, draw into their late game units. That was kind of like the battle of the early units. So
Right, right,
that was
certainly.
fun to watch.
For sure, but we do have more matches to get to here. Match number 2 coming soon, but let's go ahead and break down match number 1 in the post game. All right, Tweakin, and match number 1 ended, buddy. You are on the Vesa hype train. Let me just say, man, it's looking good to be a Vesa fan today, right now. It really is. That game, overall, just a lot of dominance from Vesa. Talk to me about how you're feeling after that one.
That was a great foundation and a great win to set up hopefully to set up the set here. I mean, we saw the double rat hovel early on in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Just constantly having those two units spawning, even if they are 1-1, just having that constant pressure if do brick out with your hand, is always great. And add, and then add on to, multiple dragon fire to kind of hold your
Oh,
opponent. I
boy.
mean, you really couldn't ask for a better start if you were Vesa in that. I mean, it didn't seem like Ooge had any answer for anything that Vesa had. It just seemed like it was all going Vesa's way.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm Vesa, I'm feeling really good about this deck. Even if Ooge does come out and win, I might still even roll with this for game 3. And if I lose game 3, possibly switch it up in game 4. But I'm liking this deck. I'm liking where I'm at, and hopefully oooje does something to hopefully, win game
Rebound.
two and kind of
Yeah.
right, because that first game was, pure domination for Vesa.
Yeah, and it's surprising because we don't really see Ooj on that end of the domination. Usually he's the one
Right.
dishing it out, not receiving it. There have been a few times, I think, in the season, but very rarely did we see that from him. And we know that he was able to make that recovery when needed, so we'll see if we can see that again out of him going into game two. But, I mean, Tweaking, only one way to find out if that's going to be the case here, buddy. We got match number two to get to. You ready to get into it?
Oh, I'm ready. Go Vesa.
All right, let's go, folks. Match number two, Vesa with the set advantage. Let's go ahead and see what happens.
All right, folks, in match number two, oooje switching up the yellow-blue, tweaking your favorite colors, making another
My pick.
appearance in this in the playoff scenario here. What do we think is up the sleeve?
We're seeing a lot of draw here. We're seeing Faithful. We're seeing. Oh, okay. Well, I was leaning towards maybe, a war party, but the Dragon Crest, I mean, we can still, it could potentially still be a war party deck, with Church and Dragon Crest, but I don't think oooje is the type of player to play, uh, war party. It takes a special type of individual to dig deep and play something as dirty as war party is.
Saying that like you've
Especially,
been there.
yeah. I've done my time.
Oh boy.
So it's going to be interesting to see what other cards. I mean, yeah, nothing too, strange here. We see, just traditional cards. Dragon Crest is I don't want to say unusual. Not a lot of people play it, but it can be very, deadly if you play it on the right unit, a Mordock, a Craxus.
I think some folks
So,
just also find Dragon Crush Yellow a bit tricky to use here. I mean, they put down the armor expecting them to get a whole lot of value, and then all of a sudden just get stomped out with like one card sitting in hand, which isn't bad, more like a cycle, but definitely not what some people expect out of the card. So there is that sort of difficulty in finding the right time to use it.
right.
And I think that's why people kind of avoid the shield because it's just like, why play something that I'm gonna have a hard time, properly using when I could do, this or this. It just is probably the mentality people go to. But I mean, overall, we're seeing oooje's draw game pull in some good resources here, tweaking a lot of freeze, a follow up Mordock in the late game. This is certainly something.
Right, and we have outs to deal with whatever Vesaven decides to do with 7 golds. If he decides to, rush an early Minotaur or something of that nature, maybe a Serpent Witch. He's gonna do a Flame Storm here, take out that draw potential, but we're gonna get it right back with the Lumberjack, and we might even play a Church as
Uh,
well.
the witch coming in is certainly not something to be ignored at this point. We only have about 4 power to kill it right now. Yeah, and we're committing to some of that now. Church is not the draw needed here. We might consider a freeze option if we really can't deal with the witch right now. Or just go with the church here for healing. I mean, that kind of works too, because, I mean, witch isn't providing a lot of damage to castle. Something like a church can easily repair the damage in the meantime.
Right, and we have, the frozen pillar too, in case Vesaven decides to burn off the church or, has something to deal with the books. Um, Maybe oooje is trying to, lure in a blue firebolt or some sort of direct damage so that when he does play the free pillar, uh, his direct damage is already gone. We need a unit here. We absolutely need a unit, a cheap unit.
Oh, and
Priest.
priest. Priest is the right one.
That's great because now we can take our pick rather to use the freezing pillar or the cloak of ice. I would go for the freezing pillar. Um,
Really?
I would because well,
You see, I feel like the
I,
cloak is better here because, nothing on Vase's side is reaching the priest unless he has to waste a burn on it, and that's a burn out of Vase's hand, which is already looking pretty depleted. So I would say cloak probably the better option of the two. Um, but okay, goes to the freezing pillar potentially here. Yep, and there it is.
the reason I say the freezing pillar is that way Vesaven has to choose between burning either the priest or the frozen pillar, and if he does burn off the pillar, we have the cloak of ice to freeze next turn. As in, if we would have played the frozen, if we would have played the cloak, and he burned off the priest somehow, now we can't do anything because now he's
Yeah.
gonna blue
Okay.
fire. So now we get like an extra, yeah, an extra chance of stall here with the cloak. That's was my reason of why to play the frozen pillar.
Okay,
Uh,
alright, fair. Fair, yeah, definitely convinced me there on that choice here. We're going to see a manfish, though, set up at the bottom. Not looking ideal for a cloak priest here, which is probably why we're going to see wraith priest in the
mhm.
wraith cloak, excuse me, instead. That'll be a great way to stall and hopefully protect a little bit with the extra health on wraith.
And not even that, now we got a Mordok to come out next turn. Uh, if we can keep this Wraith alive, which I would imagine we can, uh, we're gonna do 3 damage here with the Manfish, and unless Vesaven decides to, burn this Wraith off completely,
It
uh,
feels hard pressed to burn the wraith though, considering how chunky it is. Not a lot of burns are gonna be able to really help out here unless we're using two plus the manfish.
and let's not forget about this 5 health church in the back.
Oh,
That's gonna come
jeez.
in handy with Ooze, especially we have another one in our back pocket. That's gonna be hard to get rid of, and it's gonna be hard to deal with because now we're just gonna slowly heal up not only the castle but also all these units here, especially with the Wraith that has Cloak of Ice.
I feel like the
Now,
more we
mistake,
look at, Oooje's list, sorry to cut you off here. I mean, it feels like this was just bought specifically for this type of matchup here. A lot of
right?
elements of just freezing, stalling, things that, Vesa as a player, I know he despises, but ones that work well against his type of play here. We're going to see the double armor on the Wraith here into another Church from Oooje, making this Wraith just a complete pain in the ass.
I'm surprised he did that. I'm surprised he didn't go for the Mordok. And you know, I get that. You want to power up this thing as much as possible with give it as much health because now it's just going to be a nuisance to deal with, especially with the double church
Hmm.
and the double draw you're going to get. Uh, I understand the move. Both moves were fine. Um, Now you're kind of, putting the pressure on Vasave and you're making him, having to deal with this giant wraith, and you're just gonna get so much cards back. And you also have another Cloak of Ice. I don't know how Vasave's gonna deal
There is
with this
one
wraith.
way. I'm not sure if he sideboarded it in though. I'm thinking like an execution right now is the one way we can get past that huge body, if we have it. That is, which I mean, Vesa putting in the manfish, the Minotaur follow up, feels unlikely that we do have that, unfortunately. And it's just giving Ooj a lot more cards here. We went from 2 to 6 in a moment of like in like a turn, which is not what Vesa wants to be doing here at this point in the matchup here, putting himself at a huge resource disadvantage. And there is the Mordok as the follow-up here, connecting with the Minotaur. Horseman going to be enough to take out with the RNG, slapping the rest of that Minotaur here. Doesn't even have to trade the body. Oh, this one, the more I look at it, Tweaking, the more it just feels like it's over, unfortunately, for Vesa in this one. Just a lot of elements working against him here. The church healing, the huge wraith. I mean, I don't see any way unless
Yeah,
you can see something that I'm not.
no, unless he takes out this wraith, I mean, he's just gonna slowly die from it. I mean, we might be able to do something with a scope, but I don't think because we have another Cloak of Ice in our back pocket here. We have a Mordok.
All right, Mordok
Hopefully,
is.
we get a Banshee here,
Mm,
but now we're just gonna, play a Cloak of Ice on whatever comes next. We have, that's fine. That's a fine card, but I don't think that's gonna get us out of this, hole that we're in. We'll probably see. I mean, whatever we decide to play next. Oh, Chain Lightning. Um, yeah, I mean, we have enough to do that. We can do Shaman, Cloak of Ice, Knight of Flowers, Cloak of Ice, plus Lightning Blade, and at that point, it's just kind of game over. Um,
yeah. Although Uj starting to kind of waver here, he's hesitating on whether or not to commit with the wraith here. You see, he was tempted to pull back the wraith here to freeze off Mordok and Ranger here. Although now going for that L blade play. Not positioning in the back though, just gonna slap it right in front here to freeze off the Mordok, allowing the Ranger to possibly do his thing here, unless we do see that Knight Cloak that you were mentioning here. But I mean, this Knight being run all the way up, the Paladin as well. It seems like the Ranger will be free for this turn here. Can Vesa do something with that Ranger? Feels very unlikely with the 2 additional units coming down the board here.
Yeah, I don't see a way out of here for saving. Because whatever he hits with the Wraith is going to be pushed back, and you're going to open up both of those spots for the the Flower Knight to just come in and smack your castle for 4. Uh, I think this is game over.
Well, we're gonna see. I think him try to eliminate the Wraith. He's got another Ranger. He can sort of block here, but I don't think it's gonna really matter. I think it would
Right,
be a
you
nice
need
little moral victory to take out the Wraith. Oh, Grendel, that's not enough. You're missing 1 point there, Vesa. Giving it another pillar. Why not? Just more freeze. Okay. He can
yeah,
take it out, but yeah, there's no way that he can uh, block, I think. Yeah, the space is left open, no gold left. This match will be going to oooje here in a pretty defiant shot back, in my opinion, here, bringing what felt like the perfect counter to game 2 against Vase's style here. Oh, man. Wild stuff. Wild stuff,
yeah.
dude.
That was just domination by a single unit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I couldn't say it better myself here. The Wraith, and combined with so many additional elements here that made it very difficult for Vase to actually remove it without something like an execution. It was just all going to be downhill if we couldn't get rid of that Wraith, which we couldn't. So, yeah, we've got that matchup in the bag here. Match number 2 going to oooje. Let's go ahead and take a look at the post-match, though, for that game before we move into match number 3.
Oh no. Here is where things are gonna get a little interesting. Tweaking. We said oooje needed to rebound, and rebound he did pretty heavily and pretty hard in this matchup here. Going with the blue yellow stall tactics here, pairing with looks like Church, a lot of free stuff, which I mean really worked to Vase disadvantage in this matchup here. He could not overcome Big Wraith.
Yeah, and that's probably a great addition to oooje, just having that huge health. And a lot of people don't play Wraith, just the normal call Wraith.
Hmm.
I love it personally. I mean, you get the fear aspect, you also get the 3/8 health. More often than not, that unit is staying on the board for at least 2 to 3 turns, depending on how early you get it out. And that kind of just stops Vase's momentum and how aggressive he is, because he has to play around that Wraith. And not only that is now you have to deal not only with the Wraith and fearing back, but also add on to Lightning Blade and having to move and, work around Chain Lightning. And even if you do, the Wraith can easily just hit one of your forward units, fear it all the way back, and now you're chained together and can be susceptible to a Lightning Blade. And, seeing that huge Wraith, it was, pretty devastating, as we saw, because not only the only outs that vesaven has to get rid of that, essentially, especially now that he has what 4 shields, and every time Asa attacks it, oooje draws 2 cards. Uh, the only
Yikes.
way you get out of that is with multiple direct burns, or
Execution.
mercenaries execution.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure if Vesa runs that card, especially with how that his deck is built. If he does run it, I would bet to say that he probably only has a single copy of that
I
card.
feel like it's a
And the
very rogue sideboard option for him. I mean, just looking
right.
at his deck here now, 1 copy Griffin, 2 copy Ranger, 3 copy Minotaur. I think it's
Mhm.
very hard pressed to find a copy of Execution in here, if at all.
Right. Right. And now, if I'm Vesa, I'm kind of worried because, losing game 2 in that fashion, you got to imagine if you win this game, Vesa might bring the same exact deck to
Hmm.
game 4. And you got to ask yourself, okay, how am I going to counter this with the colors that I have? Because I'm going to have to play the same deck, this red and green, And, we might have to, sacrifice some aggression for some mercenaries execution just in case, a big wraith comes out again.
Right. We don't want to run into that same problem of big creature can't kill. I lose game because of big creature. It never feels good.
Right.
And while I don't think that's the central part of oooje's strategy here, it certainly
No.
hurt. It certainly hurt regardless. And
Yeah.
hopefully we can make those adjustments here. But I mean, going back to game 3 here, Vesa having an option to switch it up here, I don't think he needs to for game number 3 here. We saw how
Yeah.
well this deck worked against oooje's main deck, so I'd be very surprised if Vesa is going to switch it up because
Yeah.
there's just no need. I don't think there's any need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I would be shocked too, especially with how well he's been playing throughout the half of the season with this deck. I would be shocked. I mean, this is his bread and butter. This is what got him to where he is right now. So to change it up after you just lose one game, I would be shocked. I would be shocked. I would assume that he would run this back.
Right. However, Tweakin, you know the drill. There's only one way to find out if that's the case here, folks. Match number 3. Let's go ahead and jump to that right now.
All right, folks, and game number 3 now underway. oooje running back the same deck from game 1 here, but Vesa making the change up here in faction colors. First time he's done so in the entirety of our postseason, Tweakin. Switching to the yellow-red, you think he went back to the classic burn strategy, the classic burn colors here?
It's a very good possibility with, how detrimental Ooge's deck is towards burn. I mean, you burn off his rat hovels, his armories, and potentially his Temple of Five Gods, and we know how hard it was for Ooge to fight back once he lost all those spawners and armories. So I mean, we're gonna see here with actually now okay, so now I mean it's probably either gonna be between known interaction
And
or
last will.
between last will. I don't see night decks running uh Taria's files here.
It's strange because I thought the original deck that Vesa bought to game 1 was a solid matchup against oooje here. I mean, as long as the rat hovels came out, we know that, usually when you get two hovels going up against each other, depending on who has the buffs here, they end up winning. But I mean, I gotta say, those rat hovels in game 1 did a lot of work for Vesa, so I'm surprised he kind of is foregoing them here in favor of just maybe more classic burn.
Right. I think he wants the heal aspect. He doesn't want to, rely on his units doing the damage. He wants some sort of, reassurance with, healing back up if his back is against a wall here, since, we're tied in the series. It's 1-1. It's a close series. He's beaten Oooje once in the first game. So I'm sure Vesaven's doing all he can to, take out one of the top opponents in this playoff series.
Hopefully, and that is, the ideal scenario. But I mean, already oooje putting out a little more pressure than I think Vesa would like, as we're now seeing Furnace Knight as the response to Dragon Knight. Um, Not exactly the best, but I mean, there's a lot of resources in Vesa's hand right now. That can't be. Oh no, oh no.
Interesting.
Eh. I mean, I don't really know if I like that play here. I mean, I get that the dragon is, more health than the knight, but sacrificing damage when we're already this low, kind of concerning unless we have a hands in our hand already, like, the big 10 for 4.
hmm I guess he just doesn't want to deal with, the flying in case it flew in the back and you play a lightning blade like this. I can only imagine that Vesaven has some sort of heal, but now we're in deep waters with only 5 health. We have 6 gold. We have to deal with this Dragon Knight also. We have a Minotaur here. That's gonna be good. Um, so we have some life, not a lot, but Vesaven's not doing really well. Uh,
No.
avoiding this chain. I mean, he could do a lot better, but hopefully he has some sort of heal. Hopefully, he can, if it's an arbiters that we can last long enough. We're gonna see, Rusty Hooks come out, and he said, "Get over here like Scorpion."
See, my question though, Tweakin, is what could Vesa possibly be holding from the Tarius files? He's played two this game, both have popped. We've seen no cards at the discounted cost.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not,
okay,
I
Dragon's
was gonna
Fire is one
say
of them.
a Dragon's Fire is probably one of them, and he wants to probably wait till he gets a little bit more value for the Dragon's Fire. Knight of Flowers is another one. Now it's looking like a Knight deck, which is interesting. I like Knights. Knights are fun to play with, but I feel like Last Will and No Interactions are a little bit stronger than Knights.
Especially as a choice to counteract what Ooge's, core strategy is. It kind of feels like I don't know where we were going here. Maybe I can imagine Vesa wants the Lumi out of the Knights here, but I feel like those just aren't enough. The Lumis come too late, especially when Uji's strategy gets really, popping off in the first few turns, to where Luminaris might be sitting dead in your hand for a large majority of your game without a Knight
Right.
or a proper time to use it.
And we see another Rusty Hooks to deal with that Knight.
Hmm.
I mean, we can either even kill it with the Faithful Drake here. Uh, but we are heading closer towards Arbiters, which I would love to see Vesaven play next turn. Um,
Yeah, he needs it if he wants to stay alive in the matchup here. Ooge did a fantastic job at putting the early pressure on him to where, I mean, realistically, Ooge just needs maybe one more shot at the castle, but, I mean, if he can't do it this turn, which it looks like he can't based on this hand, then we might just see Vesa fire back with some kind of healing to keep himself going in the matchup.
right. If Ooze just plays the Rusty Hooks and positions his units, we may see an Arbiters. But if he plays Rally the Town, uh-oh.
Wins is not enough. It is not enough. We are one damage short, I think, from lethal, and the Lumberjack just out of position to make that work, I believe.
Hmm.
So we would have had game if Lumber was just a little more aggressive here, but it does give Vesa some life. It
Now
does
we
give him
can
some life.
cycle here, though. We can cycle into a buff if he wants to with the Lumberjack.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna do so here with a nice little hooks to eliminate both Knight of Flowers here. The Smith is in hand, but one gold too short.
Oh, he
Uh,
got greedy with the Rusty Hooks, but um, no, he can't unless he burns off one of these units. The Faithful Drake, the Saving can't deal with it unless he Arbiters here.
yeah, I mean Arbiters has to be the play. It's Arbiters or bust here, Vesa, or some kind of healing. Hell, hands would be fine too, honestly, Chief. Like, give us anything to show that you're alive in this matchup. Anything at all.
See, when Uj played um Winds of the Nords, I thought he was gonna trade with the Lumberjack to get the draw. I didn't think he was gonna play the Rusty Hooks to start. And if he would have done what I was thinking he was gonna done, it would have been game over now.
Yeah, it would have been if we had just put the Jack into the Knight of Flowers initially. But no, Vesa's going to keep going in the matchup here. We are going to play an aggressive pillar to freeze off this Knight of Flowers, which is good. I mean, he wants to maintain a sort of chain setup here again, forcing Vesa to really just either have the card or go bust here, which is, perfectly fine. We'll see if hopefully maybe again saw no heal before. We gotta see it now, and there it
Yep,
is,
there's the heal.
eliminating the freezing pillar,
But
which is fine, I
but we're
guess.
about to get a lot of reanimate value here.
2 units at the most here because look at the chain lightning.
I would play blacksmith then. Well,
Uh,
no, I want to play blacksmith.
I
Never
mean,
mind,
he
because it
probably
wouldn't do
wants to
anything.
now. Yeah, no, he wants
Yeah.
to now for the additional damage, and then follows up with a reanimate here. I mean, two
Oh
horsemen
God.
ends the game, and there it is.
Oh my
I
God.
spoke it into existence, and here it is. Oh my God. Well, I mean, again, tweaking. What can we say here? But just straight domination from Ooj. It seemed like the whole match was basically in his favor the entire time. The night strategy from Vesa was honorable, but just not enough to deal with what Ooj was doing. So, Oh
Yeah,
man.
I expected more from red yellow. It's a strong combination, and I don't think Knights was the correct call there. I much rather seen last will or no interactions
Hmm.
in that point. But it could have gone a whole different way if we found the Lumi or if we were able to heal up earlier in the match. But now we get to see game four and potentially oooje can close it out here with a win.
Yeah, I mean, got one more match to do so. Vesa, though, does have, again, the counter pick option here, so we'll see if he decides to switch it up. Only time will tell, though. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at game number 3 just a little bit closer.
Tweakin, I am very surprised here coming after game number 3. And I'm kind of nervous for the Vesa hype train right now, buddy. It looks pretty shaky here with the way this last game turned out. Vesa going back to the red yellow knight deck that we haven't really seen since the middle of the regular season here. The deck that was really struggling in that opening portion and seemed to struggle again here against oooje. I don't know what the game plan was here. If he wanted those flamestorms and dragon's fires for swarms here, but man, they did not come through in this game.
Yeah, I'm also confused with you. You know, to not only change up your deck, but to pick the deck that you struggled with halfway through the season, and then you ultimately change so you don't have to keep playing with this deck, and then to play it now in game three to hope to potentially get yourself into the finals. I don't understand it. Even if it was to get the Dragon's Fires and the Flamestorms, you could have just easily added Flamestorm into your monster deck.
Right, right. I mean, you have the
Uh
warlock option there. It
right,
makes sense. So if there
right.
was the swarm that was concerning you, then make the sideboard there, not switch over to a whole different deck. I mean, the one benefit I could see coming out of this deck is the potential for a Luminaris as the surprise swarm killer, but even that doesn't really feel super tight here, and being at one copy in this deck as well, it scares me. It scares me.
Right. And just looking at oooje's, deck built, I mean, you can easily kill off a lot of his buildings and globals with direct damage. I mean, not very often do you see in a night deck do you get a Lumi to hit all the buildings in the back row.
Hmm.
Not very often you get that, and it's very unlikely when you come up against a top player like that who knows once they see a knight and like a multitude of knights, okay, a Lumi is somewhere in this deck. So he's going to focus a lot of his, fighting power on those, more, advanced units so that even if a Lumi does come out, it's not reaching as far as it potentially could.
Right.
So I'm just shocked with the decision. I think Besa could have picked a better deck to go into game three. I'm still shocked. I think this was a poor decision by Besa, and I kind of want to know his thought process as to why he decided to pick this deck.
Certainly, that is something to consider here. However, we do have at least one more game in the works here. oooje now walking with the potential set victory here as we walk into game number 4. Vesa again having the opportunity to counteract here. So, I mean, obviously, I hope we're going to be off this deck. And going back to what worked in game 1 here, but I mean, only time will tell. One more match, Tweakin. Do you believe the Vesa hype train is real? Do you believe we can clutch it out in the next 2 games?
If he goes back to his red green deck, yes. If he goes back to his bread and butter to when he just dominated game one, I think there's still a chance. He needs to go back to where he's comfortable with, and green red is the answer.
All right, folks, you heard it here first from Tweakin. Will we see the red green make an appearance? Match number 4 coming at you right now.
All right, folks, and game number 4, potentially the last one of this set underway as oooje one game away from putting himself in finals here. Vesa making a switch up once again, moving to Druid Viking this time here. I feel like at this point, Vase is trying to pull out all the stops here. Again, refusing to go towards the, Pirate Warlock build that worked pretty well in Game 1, which is surprising, but we'll see if there is a surprise in store for us yet. Tweakin, how you feeling about this matchup here as we're going to see a coin hovel turn 1?
Vesaven's changing up his deck a lot, and I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that. Changing up your deck can sometimes, make it a little bit harder because you're not used to playing with that deck. Uh, and I just feel like he needs to play red yellow against this deck. It's so powerful against blue green with just the amount of burn, and he's going with, Vikings Druids. I'm not sure
Vesa,
what type of deck it
please,
is.
Fist of Donic. Right here. Please, Fist of Donic.
There's no chance. There's no chance he's running that.
No. Oh man. It'd be funny though, like a 3/6 with Chain Lightning 2 permanent. That's not gonna bode well for oooje on, turn 3.
Except, yeah. Uh, do you play a Maddie here, right? And just give up one of those hobbles?
Um I don't think you even have to sack the hovel. You can just throw Maddie in front right to block and just okay. Or
Oh,
yep,
or you could just blow them back.
Yep, just say no. No sir. I want to keep my dirty rat hovels.
Yeah, but now you open up to a lightning blade if Vesaven really wants to get rid of that uh rat hovel.
Yeah, the choice is in his court. There is a miner connecting with the rat. Nope, doesn't seem like it. Which means something else has to be in store for us. The question is what centaur for play here. That's going to eliminate the hovel. Okay, ignoring the wind mage. That's fine. Again, we want to control the rats. We saw how well controlling the flow of rats worked for him in game one. Looking to see if he can repeat that success in game number 4.
But now it's just gonna start getting out of hand with all these fat bards, and we have draw potential with the shamans. We got to do something here if we're saving next turn. And this is the problem with not running burn. It's just we're gonna have to deal with so many units and buildings sitting in the back, just spawning out you know
Mm-hmm.
constant units that we really don't have an answer outside of lightning blades and potentially freeze. But I don't think oooje is gonna give him the opportunity to set himself up for a big lightning blade unless a freezing pillar shows itself.
Right, and I'm kind of curious what Vesa's overall strategy is here in choosing the blue-white. Obviously, companion is something that we see everywhere, so we really can't get much from that. But the dwarves as a choice here is kind of interesting. Don't see the miners every day, dwarven miners, that is, before someone takes that out of context. We're going to see a lumberjack here, all right, connecting with the rat for some cycle here. Seems fine into the Rat King. Alright, so maybe, well, I would say Vase's own Mystic Rat strategy, but of course the Rat King trade wants him to, forego the upkeep, which is fine. But yeah, not the best situation currently for Vesa on this board right now here. I mean, it has the slight numbers advantage, but in terms of unit quality, he is going to fall behind here as we get later into the game here with, like you said, the additional fat bards. And even more so maybe when we get that shaman cycle going. It just feels very, very difficult at this point now that oooje's got some kind of engine going with the, hovel spawn into the global, the wind mage as well, and of course the shaman cycle, which is now hitting the board here, creating that 3/5 body, that, extra annoying creature that now base has to work around. It feels, again, sort of like how we saw game 3 tweaking.
Yeah, and the way that oooje lost all his games prior to this event was you just take out a lot of his global buffs and all of his units essentially become too weak. Temple of Five Gods, that's going to be good to, kind of stall for, as long as it can.
It's a fair
Um,
equalizer, yeah.
but we need something here. We need like a freezing pillar. We need to see a Yenneroth. We need to see something where we can, get this all these chains together and chain up a lot of his units and hopefully take out an armory or one or two of these fat bards once they hit the floor.
Or just get the swarm under control. I mean, look at the double guard in oooje's hand. That can't be good for Vesa, considering that I'm not sure he's running similar bodies that can just multi-spawn here to provide more bodies. I feel like that's just something that he's gonna lack on as this game goes forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, oooje deck is basically kind of like a swarm pull deck. Lot of, low cost units for a reanimate value, and then you just, boost them up to unreal potential with the likes of Fat Bards, Armories, and then to top it off with the Temple of the Five Gods. It becomes extremely hard to deal with if you're not running burn or
Yeah.
freeze.
And we're seeing the
So
quality of units come out now as here guards moving to snipe the rat here to establish a clear board for oooje. Vesa has to pull out something here. I'm not sure what it is, but I mean, it's got to be something big here. We're not at the Yenneroth phase of the game yet, so not going to be that, unfortunately. Although we're probably going to survive, I think, till. I mean, I hope we can survive till Yenneroth. The Fat Bards, the dual Fat Bards in hand may make it a close call. I'm just trying to do some
we could
math here in my
do
head here. Nah, I mean, if it's double Fat Bard, he's only going to have a turn, which, won't be enough.
we could do uh I was gonna say maybe a Beastmaster, but now we're gonna go for a Dragon Knight. We might be able to reanimate here.
Nope, going with
Fat
the burn.
Bard.
Okay, leaving the Drake and the Dragon Knight alive via swip swap there of opponents. That's fine. This is going to force the Wind Mage to either advance up to kill off the Faithful Drake, putting it in range of something like a Beastmaster or just an additional unit here. Or we'll see Guard forego the attack here, going for Dragon Knight, which would leave Wind Mage to kill off the Faithful, but leave Vesa enough room to possibly play a Yenneroth moving into the late game here. As
We're
the
gonna do the
dual
double Fat
Bard
Bard here.
the dual Bard strategy comes to fruition. We'll see that connect there. And yep, the Wind Mage doing the last bit of damage on the Faithful Drake here. We'll see if Vesa now has to be a little bit desperate and sack the Bard to kill off the guard here. The upkeep will hurt him turn 9 and, to block him off of a Yenneroth if he has it. So he needs to get rid of that Bard if that is the case here. Yeah, I don't see a way for Vesa to really recover without Yenneroth. I mean, freezing pillar would be nice, but again, we don't really have a way to really effectively use that here. I mean, there's just so many targets and so many strong ones at that here. I mean, each rat coming out is a 4/4. The Wind Mage being a 5/5. Uh, this is just oooje's deck doing what oooje's deck does. It's as simple as
And
that.
there, yeah, and there's a Griffin. Still, that I still don't think that's enough. Now we stop the initial push. I think we're gonna have that rat trade into the Griffin. We're gonna push back with the Wind Mage. So we pause this attack. We'll probably see a Shaman into a Huston City Guard this turn, unless oooje just wants to get some castle damage here.
Yeah, no,
It's
wants the
gonna get
damage.
wants to get the damage, wants to get the health lead, wants to put some pressure, knowing that Vesaven still has to deal
Oh
with
no.
that rat. And we see a temple coming in his back pocket, and that's gonna kind of be. I feel like that's gonna be the dagger, unless Vesaven has something to answer, which I don't know what he can answer with these faction colors outside of a freezing pillar and Yenneroth in this spot.
Armory, that's not going to be enough, Chief. Sure, it keeps the Griffin alive in a trade, but it's not doing what you want to do here. It's not clearing the swarm. It's not controlling the board here. It's just sitting there doing its thing here. I mean, props to being keeping up with the global game with oooje a little bit here. I mean, got 2 globals and a temple here. Unfortunately, oooje is just slightly ahead with the triple global plus temple. So, yeah, not okay. Never mind. There's another armory, which is fantastic, but I don't think it's gonna matter here. I think the temple is just enough lethal points as it is, right? No, not with the bard block. Oh, it doesn't
But with
matter.
the lightning blade, I think that ends it.
Uh, Probably here. Yeah. No, he needed the
N-
temple. Yeah, he kind of shotgunned the L blade here, giving Vader the free turn. I don't know if that was a lethal opportunity here, but I think, I mean, me and you both saw Lightning Blade and assumed game over, but I don't think we did the, correct math. We're going to be very close to lethal, but just barely surviving at 2 if we want to push
Mm-hmm.
for damage, which we won't. We can keep the Wind Mage protected in the back here, which is fine here. I mean, Yenaroth Rampage, please? Maybe? No, there is the
Nope.
surrender. Vesa does not have the tools to advance, and that will leave oooje with the set victory here. Advancing into the finals of the Casting Conflicts playoffs here, and securing himself ever so closer to that big champion prize. Yeah, what a set, Tweakin', what a set. What we thought was going to be maybe an even matchup between these guys with the Game 1, Game 2 exchange here turned into oooje domination Game 3 and 4. Oh, man. Incredible action for sure.
Yeah, I don't think we expected anything different. Not saying anything against vesaven, but we just know how strong oooje has been throughout this season,
Hmm.
and he showed it with those last 3 games, winning in easy fashion out once he lost that first round. But for everyone that's watching that's still in this competition, I feel like the key to beating oooje is just burning off all his globals. If you're
I
able
mean,
to,
there's really only one more person who needs that.
yeah.
Considering that, God, I mean, he moves into the finals against potentially unknown opponent. At the time of recording this, we don't actually have the opponent set for oooje yet, but it's coming down to one of potentially 3 options. And we know they're going to need all the strength they need if they want to sweep the finals away from oooje. But incredible action nonetheless here, and let's go ahead and take you to game number 4, the post game anyway, where we can break down what happened in that final match.
So, Tweakin, we're post game 4, right? We're back here. What am I looking at for this deck right now with Vesa? It's not the red green that we were talking about. What is this?
I could give you a million guesses of what that deck was. I don't. I'm not even sure if we saw a theme to the. I mean, we saw like just you know cards that are good with any faction. We didn't see any like card that came out. It was like, oh, okay, this is okay, this is a just a freeze deck with companions, or this is a bounce deck or an awaken deck. We saw none of that. We saw none of that, and all we saw was oooje just run down Broadway and say thank you, Vesa, for the game 4 and probably the easiest game of the whole set.
This was certainly a tough one to watch here, as again, Vesa trying to dive out of the comfort zone here and bring in something completely new, mind you. I don't think we saw this deck from Vesa at all during the regular season, and to bring it out here on its debut in the semifinals of the playoffs is certainly a risky move here, and I guess at the end of the day, Vesa might have the satisfaction that he took something new in, at least new to his arsenal inside of the semifinals. But man, this was just rough. Ultimately, what looks to be a potential Mystic Rat deck here. I mean, I'm seeing Journey, seeing Rat King, seeing Temple. What looks to be that kind of just didn't really unfold, unfortunately, and it really just goes to show that not every deck has a shining one here. God, I'm
Yeah,
kind of
I
at a
mean,
loss for words, honestly.
it just hurt. It hurt to, the first 3 games, they were really good, had, a lot of potential. Then to end it on a game like this that is why we try to, that's why we increase the amount of games that we want our players to play. So this exact scenario wouldn't happen. Just a clear domination where the other side just couldn't do anything and was just playing cards for the sake of playing cards. But unfortunately, as much as we can, sometimes it still happens. And unfortunately, it happened in the most crucial moment for Vesa. It's just unfortunate.
Oh man, I'm just more upset that the Vesa train dies here. Or at least it's the final stop for the Vesa train, as oooje
Yeah,
does
we're
walk
getting
away with
off.
the.
we're getting off.
You want to transfer trains back to the oooje
Yeah,
line while we're here?
yeah. I need a moment.
Uh, oh boy. Well, with that being said, folks, as much as we could say here for this set here, it is going to be the end, and that does mean oooje walks into our finals here with the opportunity to win it all. Who will he face, though? We'll find out in the next episode. Before we leave you folks off here today, let's take a look at the bracket and see how this set shakes things up. All right, folks, and with that set underway, the Vesa Domination Express is come to its final stop as oooje coming out on top in this matchup here, securing his spot for the finals. A little sad tweaking, and got to admit here, Vesa was on quite a streak here from the Raka Rumble, making it past the round one and looking to be on a great streak here, but unfortunately, oooje stopped him dead in his tracks. It happens. It happens, but we have to acknowledge it. We do have to move forward here into the next matchup here, where DA Death's Advocate goes up against Allen to determine who oooje's opponent will be here. And any words on that match before we kind of close off this episode?
Yeah, well, I mean, one Raka train ends, and we hop right back onto another Raka train, which is DA. Even though DA is not on the, even though DA did not play in the Raka, I misspoke. That is JJ. Both the Raka trains have crashed, and we're just gonna hop on DA.
I don't remember if DA is playing Raka. I know he is on the Red Green Swarm. So there might be potentially. But yeah, we gotta wait until that episode comes out here. So yeah, with that being said, folks, I think that's gonna do it for now. Until next time, take care.